She arrived like she owned the place. Her heels clicked against the ancient stones of Buckingham Palace with the kind of arrogance that made people pause. Not out of admiration, but discomfort. Tourists moved aside without even realizing it, as if her self-importance physically pushed the air around her. Blonde hair perfectly done, designer sunglasses perched on her nose, phone in one hand, and attitude in the other. No one knew her name yet. But by the time the Queen's Guard took their first step forward, everyone would remember what she did. That morning had started like any other changing of the guard ceremony. Sunlight brushing the palace walls. Tourists. For many, this was a once-in-a-lifetime moment. But for one woman, it was just another background for her. Perfect shot. She shoved past a young couple, nearly knocked a coffee from someone's hand, and positioned herself, front and center, directly in the ceremonial path. "I'm not moving," she said aloud. To no one in particular. "Let them go around me," the crowd murmured. A father with 2 small kids gently asked her to step back. She refused. "You people act like this is some kind of sacred ritual," she scoffed. "They're just playing dress up." But what she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that this dress up came with centuries of unshakable tradition, military authority, and a code of discipline that didn't bend for anyone. Not even her. Before we go any further, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. If you love true stories of courage, discipline, and those unforgettable moments when entitlement meets reality, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We share real encounters with the Royal Guard every week, and trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. As the brass echoed in the distance, signaling the approach of the Royal Guard, murmurs swept through the crowd like a rising wind. Children were hoisted higher onto shoulders, phones raised, eyes turned, and yet, she didn't move. Standing directly in the Queen's Guard ceremonial path, her arms were now folded, her stance even more defiant than before. "Seriously? Is this what people wait hours to see?" she muttered, flipping her hair with a smirk. "I've seen better choreography at my pilates class." A palace steward approached quietly. "Mom, I'm afraid you'll need to clear the path. The royal guards are approaching, and they do not stop." She raised an eyebrow. "What are they gonna do? March over me?" The steward didn't laugh. Neither did the family next to her. "They're not theme park actors," the mother said gently. "They're real British military personnel. This is more than just a tourist attraction." But the woman rolled her eyes. "Oh please. This whole Queen's Guard routine is just a glorified parade. They're actors with fancy hats. I have every right to stand here." Still, the tension built. Boots began to echo louder. That unmistakable synchronized march of red coats and polished black boots. The changing of the guard was more than a spectacle. It was a centuries-old ritual of duty and honor. And now, she stood directly in the path of that history, armed with nothing but arrogance. People in the crowd started backing away, instinctively clearing the way. But she stood alone, her presence now a visual insult to every rule and tradition surrounding her. A boy no older than 10 tugged on his father's sleeve. "Daddy, what happens if she doesn't move?" His father didn't respond. He was watching too closely. Like everyone else. What would you have done in that moment? Would you have warned her again? Or stepped aside and let history handle the rest? Let us know in the comments below. The air around Buckingham Palace seemed to shift. The unmistakable thunder of boots against ancient cobblestones echoed louder now. The Queen's Guard was less than 50 feet away. Their ceremonial march was flawless, every movement executed with the precision of centuries-old training. But still, she didn't budge. A palace security officer stepped forward, his voice clipped and urgent. "Ma'am, this is your final warning. The Royal Guard will not stop. They will not turn. Please clear the ceremonial route immediately." She scoffed, lifting her phone and holding it high like she was about to film a music video. "I pay taxes," she snapped. "This is a public space. If they can't step around one person, maybe they shouldn't be in uniform." The crowd collectively flinched. It wasn't just arrogance anymore. It was ignorance. Dangerous, reckless ignorance. Then came the first command. A deep voice, sharp as a sword's edge, sliced through the courtyard. "Make way for the Queen's Guard." The guards rounded the corner. Red tunics, polished rifles, unblinking stares. Leading the column was Sergeant Rhys Hadley, a man whose resume included 2 deployments and 8 years of active duty service. His ceremonial expression gave away nothing, but his mind had already assessed the threat standing in their path. He did not slow. The tension crackled now. The crowd had pulled back so far that she stood completely alone in a corridor of stone and silence. She turned toward the advancing soldiers, squinting into her camera. "Oh, they're coming right at me. This'll go viral." Then it happened. With military precision, Sergeant Hadley's boot struck the stones with unmistakable weight, his shoulder aligned directly toward her, and still, she held her ground. The royal guard's ceremonial authority was colliding with modern entitlement. The man next to her muttered, "She's about to learn the hard way." The second guard's hand twitched, hovering just above his ceremonial sword. It was a controlled motion, but enough to shift the crowd into hushed shock. This wasn't just about marching anymore. It was a demonstration of discipline meeting defiance. And the crowd, phones out, breath held, hearts racing. Would you have moved by now? Or would pride have held your feet in place like hers? Tell us in the comments. We're reading. The Queen's Guard didn't stop. They never do. With every synchronized step, they closed the gap, red coats blazing under the London sun, rifles upright, eyes fixed straight ahead. Sergeant Hadley was now mere feet away from the woman who had mistaken history for theater. She smirked, lifting her phone one last time. "This'll be great for TikTok," she muttered, completely unaware that her next post would come with a side of public humiliation. The final warning came. Not from security, not from the crowd, but from the guard himself. Without breaking stride, Hadley barked, "Clear the path." But she didn't. So he did what he was trained to do. With practiced motion, his shoulder clipped hers. Not violently, but deliberately, just enough to knock her off balance. Her phone tumbled to the stones, her sunglasses flew from her face, and she stumbled sideways with a gasp of outrage. The second guard passed her without a glance. The third's boot came down inches from her hand as she reached for her phone, and the vibration of that impact shook more than just the ground. The crowd exhaled as one. There was no chaos. No fight. No drama. Just the calculated force of ceremonial discipline meeting deliberate defiance. She scrambled to her feet, cheeks flushed, outfit dusted in royal dirt. "You can't do that! I'll sue! That's assault!" A child nearby whispered, "Is she okay?" His mother answered without looking away, "She's learning something." The woman turned to the crowd, seeking sympathy, but none came. Phones were still rolling. Dozens had captured every second, from her smug arrival to her humbled stumble. Comments would follow. Hashtags would spread. But in that moment she wasn't a victim. She was a cautionary tale. Then a new voice emerged. Deeper, steadier, commanding. "Mom, step aside. Now." The crowd parted as a Royal Guard officer approached, darker uniform, gold insignia flashing in the sun. His stride was calm, but his presence held the weight of centuries. "You are interfering with a military procession," he said, voice low but unshakable. "Leave the ceremonial path, or face detainment." Her arrogance faltered. For the first time, true panic crept into her expression. "You're detaining me. For standing." "No," the officer said plainly. "For disrespecting the uniform, the tradition, and the soldiers who wear it. The guard right to hold the line. What would you have done in their place? Let us know your thoughts." This story stirs opinions. As the ceremonial march continued, the Queen's Guard resumed their path as if nothing had happened. Their boots struck the stones in perfect rhythm, their eyes never drifting, their discipline never cracking. The incident, brief and contained, was just a wrinkle in centuries of British military tradition. Another reminder that the uniform they wore was more than just for show. Meanwhile, the woman was ushered off the square. Not in handcuffs but in humiliation. Her confident stride was gone. Her phone, still recording, screen cracked. But perhaps the real fracture was in her understanding of what respect means. The Royal Guard didn't act out of spite. They didn't raise a hand in anger. They simply followed protocol, a code written in duty, drilled into muscle memory, and backed by the weight of those who came before them. This wasn't about making a viral video. It was about honoring service. About recognizing that ceremony doesn't make a soldier less of one. That the man standing in red and black in front of a palace gate today may have once stood in combat gear in the deserts of Afghanistan, or on the front lines of defense missions you'll never read about. To call them actors in silly hats is to spit on history. To stand in their path is to challenge something older and stronger than any one person's ego. So let us ask you this: what would you have done if you were in that square? Would you have warned her again? Stood in silence? Or stepped in when she crossed the line? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every one, and your voice helps shape this community. And if this story moved you, made you think, or just reminded you that respect still matters in this world, leave a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you don't miss our next real encounter with the Royal Guard. Because this isn't the last time someone will underestimate the silence of discipline. And next time, it might not end with just a stumble. Thanks for watching. Until then, remember, respect isn't weakness. Tradition isn't outdated. And some lines, they're not meant to be crossed.